We're here in Vanderbilt Libraries Special Collections to talk to artist Keith Francis about his work that is in our collection and also some of his more recent work. And we're going to have a lovely conversation. I'm Mary Anne Caton. I work in assessment collections and engagement, and this is a new project for the library. What was the first book that you really fell in love with?
Oh boy. I don't know. I'm the only child of an only child and the father of an only child. So I spent a lot of time alone and a lot of time on the farm because both my parents worked, and my grandfather was an engineer and he wasn't around the house, and my grandmother basically was busy either canning vegetables or cleaning the kitchen or doing something, and I was on my own. So I spent a lot of time reading. I think I was lucky. My grandfather was a self-educated electrical engineer, and he taught at a university for a while, and was a very well-read person. His father was a missionary to the Seminole Indians, but he had time to read too when he was growing up, and so he read to me the Greek tragedies, and the Iliad, and Odyssey when I was about that high, sitting in the backyard. So I had quite a long time of thinking about things in the context of myth, thinking about things in the context of how they might apply to my personal life. What did a myth mean? I had a lifetime to think about that. But the early books I think that really interested me were the ones that I think I first really ran into that interested me were probably in a lasting way that affected me were Hemingway's books. I was really interested in the direct language that Hemingway used and the power with which he wrote. And I've since come to find things I didn't like quite as well about Hemingway, but about his writing and about the perspective. But I did like them at that time. I think they were adventurous and romantic, and I enjoyed reading those. I enjoyed. I think maybe the next book that really had a major effect on me was Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which I think that's the only book I think that I've read probably more than 10 times and saw something different every time I read it. I tell you, I taught a funny class for returning Vietnam veterans on art appreciation, and they thought it was a SOP class, and I decided that I would put a list of books I had read on the outside of the room, and that way people, after they came in, they would know, could read the books I had read, and we would have a mutual language of metaphors and things we could discuss. And so I put up the list of books out there, and I saw this bunch of vets standing outside the door trying to decide if they were going to come into my class or not. And I went out and I said, "What's the trouble? What are you looking for?" And he said, "Well, we're looking for art appreciation class that we heard was a really SOP A, easy A, but this here says it's a motorcycle maintenance class, and we're not interested in coming in to that. We know enough about machine maintenance. We're looking for a SOP A with art." I thought, "Well, you got the right one, come on." But anyway, Zen Art of Motorcycle Maintenance interested me because it was the ability. I think there was something there that was very artistic going on in the character, the lead character, and what was going on was his ability to see beyond the surface and find the interior form of something. I mean, he could take a beer can and cut it into a strip and see that it was actually a piece of .025 aluminum that could be used to shim up a BMW motorcycle's handlebars and keep them from slipping, whereas the other person who was with him only saw it as a beer can. And that, to me, was a great, interesting distinction there. The ability to understand something for its interior spiritual content, including, its molecular makeup. Those things are pretty important. And so I read that, and I've continued to refer to that book. And then, of course, there's 1,000 other books that I read and enjoy.
Are there any that influenced you in your work?
Not so much, no, I don't think. I read British detectives right now. I read British detective novels, but and they're enjoyable. And that's a relief from being in the studio 8 and 10 hours a day. But the work itself seems to spring from itself. I tell my students, you know, if when you start out, you're going to copy somebody, you're going to plagiarize somebody, you're going to emulate somebody, but choose some really great work to do that with. Don't choose work that's less than the absolute best. And then after you work for a while, you can start stealing from yourself and plagiarizing yourself. And I think maybe 25 years ago I reached a place where I started plagiarizing myself. And the work that interests me now has to do with the reinterpretations of work I did earlier and seeing what I missed.
In thinking about your bigger relationship with books, are there particular books you like to share with friends and family or with your students? Or?
I think about that. There are really good book artists about, you know. I mean, there are people who are doing some extraordinary things with books. The books, quite often the books that I'm interested in are not books that people that necessarily like books would be interested in seeing. I'm very interested in Ansel Keefer's books. And I'm interested in his books because they're outrageous in the sense that they're, for the most part, are broken glass and materials that we don't think of in terms of handling books, but they stand as symbols for books and images of books. And I'm interested in sharing that with students because I think that's a pretty open-ended idea and not something they tend to emulate. It's too crazy to emulate, you know, to see that. So those are books that interest me. There are letterpress printers whose work is impeccable, and the choice of content and subject matter and the binding and the setting of the type is so precise and beautifully done that they give me peace. Because of their patience, they bestow patience on me in some way, I think. So those books I think I show, and there are a number of really fine shops that do that. If you go to any of the really good book festivals, you'll find some of those people. I'm interested in concept, and I'm interested in how people deliver information in a book. I always felt like you could say the most subversive thing in a book because people have had books in their hands since they were in a crib, you know, and they trust a book. They're not threatened by books. You can put almost any kind of information you want to in a book, and people will accept it, or they'll read it without protest. But, you know, as Mapplethorpe found out, and you could take that same information, if you put that in a book, people would deal with it like, yes, okay. If you put it up on the wall in a 5 by 8 foot photograph, you're going to get some flack from that. People going, no, what they put on their walls is a different thing. So I'm interested in how those things cross over. I'm interested in where you take a concept and it seems people are receptive to it inside of the format of a book, and it's contained, and where when you put that same information on the wall, it has a entirely different visceral and physical and emotional response to a person. I mean, those 4-leaf clovers that were in Penumbra and that transfusion bag for the AIDS cousin are one thing when you see it inside a book and you read a heartfelt piece about that. You take that same image and you put it on the wall in the 8 by 8 foot square, and you get a different reaction from people, powerful reaction from that image that large. One's, I think, emotional and people think about it longer. The other is hits you harder and you don't think about it as long, but it hits you harder. And how you choose to pass on information is an interesting thing.